The restaurant hummed with soft jazz and low conversation. Daniel's hand reached across the linen-covered table and closed around mine. "I'll be gone Thursday through Sunday," he said, voice casual. "Vegas, guys' weekend, just decompressing." Before the IPO roadshow kicks off, the wine glass paused just before my lips. "Vegas, yeah. You know, poker, bad jokes, too much whiskey, nothing scandalous." He smiled like it was all a sitcom. I tilted my head, watching the way his thumb traced mine. "I didn't know you were close with those guys, college friends. You've met Greg." He released my hand to cut his steak, smooth as always. "It's been a while. Figured we deserved one last blowout, and you picked Vegas." "You say it like I suggested a strip club tour." I smiled. "Did you?" His fork stopped halfway to his mouth. "No," he said, laughed tight. "Come on, Liv. You know me better than that." I set the glass down without sipping. "Do I?" He looked up. "What's that supposed to mean?" "It means you used to hate Vegas, remember? You said it was desperate energy and overpriced gin. People change that fast." He placed the fork down carefully. "Okay. What's going on?" "Nothing." I leaned back. "I'm just surprised, that's all. I need this," he said, softer now. "The pressure's been insane. Between investors, press, team politics, it's been a grind. I need 48 hours to be Daniel and not Daniel the founder." I nodded slowly. "I get that." His eyes searched mine. "Then don't make it weird." I reached for my wine again. "I'm not, just take pictures, so I can pretend I was there." He laughed, relaxing. "Done? You'll be bored out of your mind, though." Hotel rooms, blackjack tables. Greg snoring, hardly a thriller. "And no phones at poker tables." "Exactly," he said quickly. The lie slipped through like smoke. No hesitation, no stutter. I looked down at the ring, rose gold. Oval cut diamond, understated but deliberate. It had felt solid. Anchoring. Now it felt like a prop in someone else's play. "Liv?" He said. I looked up. "You okay?" "Just tired," I said. "Long week." He nodded, motioned for the check. "I'll text you when we land." "Don't bother," I said. "Have fun." Really? That night, I stood barefoot in the bedroom, watching him fold his shirts with robotic precision. I leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed. "You want me to help you pack?" "Nah. I got it," he said. "You always fold everything too tight." "I like tight corners." "Yeah, you do." He smirked. I waited a beat. "Is Greg still married?" "Barely. Cheryl's giving him hell for the trip." "Smart woman." He laughed. "Yeah, well, Cheryl's always been a little intense." I moved to the dresser, pulled open the drawer with his chargers. "Did you pack this?" "Almost forgot, thanks." He reached out, kissed my cheek. "What would I do without you, HMM?" He stopped, still with the vibe. I turned, smiled faintly. "There's no vibe, just observing." "Observing what?" "How well you lie," I said. Eyes meeting his. He froze. Then he chuckled, walking past me with his charger. "Jesus, Liv, you've been reading too many courtroom thrillers." "I don't read fiction." "Exactly," he said, tossing the charger into his bag. He zipped the suitcase with a little too much force. At the airport, I stayed in the car. "You sure you don't want coffee?" he asked, already opening the door. "I'm fine." He leaned in, kissed me. "I'll bring you back something tacky and glittery. Just bring back yourself." "On time?" He winked. "Always." I watched him walk toward the terminal, rolling his navy Samsonite behind him. The sun hit the side of his sunglasses just as he disappeared through the automatic doors. My hand reached down to the console. The other half of the story was already nestled in the lining about Samsonite. Sewn into the seam. I had restitched myself neatly, without question, not paranoia. Pattern recognition, not rage, record keeping. I pulled away from the curb, merged into traffic, and turned the volume up just enough to drown out the sound of everything else. The rain tapped against the windows as I slipped the last stitch closed. Small black thread, almost invisible along the seam. His carry-on stood upright by the door. Zipper polished, handle extended like it was waiting to be willed into another lie. The lens was silent. No light, no blinking. I placed the bag back where he left it. The doorbell buzzed. Sophie stepped in before I said a word, dropping her umbrella by the radiator. "You look like someone who just buried a body," she said, peeling off her coat almost. She followed me into the kitchen. "Wine, top shelf." I poured to glasses. "You're not joking." "Are you?" she said, taking hers. "What did he do?" "He's in Vegas with Greg, supposedly." Sophie raised an eyebrow. "Greg's the one with the DUI and a Pinterest board for barbecue sauces." "That's the one." She leaned on the counter. "And you buried a camera in Daniel's luggage." "I embedded it." She stared. "That's both terrifying and impressive." I needed clarity. "You needed a therapist." "I have you," she sipped. "So this is about suspicion. Or did you catch something?" "Not yet. But the feed's live." She blinked. "You're watching him." "Not watching. Recording. Reviewing later." Jesus, Liv. I set my glass down. I don't react anymore. Seth, I analyzed. She stared at me, then slowly nodded. You think he's cheating? I know he's lying. The rest is just verification. There was a pause. Then she said, you want to go through with this? You do it legally, not like a B-list spy. It's a camera in a bag. He crossed the border of honesty first. He could sue if he finds it. Not if I never use it publicly. That's comforting. I looked at her. You think I'm wrong? I think you're careful. And something must have felt off for you to get surgical with his suitcase. I sat down, watching the candle flicker between us. He changed Sophie incrementally, his schedule, his tone, his phone always face down. I've studied this kind of drift in mergers, the quiet phase before the hostile takeover. You think he's replacing you? I think he already did. She folded her arms. You're not the kind of woman who waits around for proof. I'm not the kind of woman who guesses and loses either. Sophie studied me. What are you planning? For now, nothing. She narrowed her eyes. Liv, I'm gathering data like always. This isn't a case, no. I said. It's more important than that. She exhaled. You're scaring me. I'm calm. That's what's scary. We sat in silence. Outside, the rain had softened into mist. Finally, she said. If this goes sideways, if you want to escalate, call me first. I already did, I mean legally. I nodded once. She drained her glass. How long until he's back? Sunday, and until then. I wait. Sophie rose, grabbing her coat. You always did play the long game this time. I said, I'm not playing. The feed loaded slow. A spinning wheel. My pulse didn't rise. When it finally clicked into place. The timestamp read Friday, 10:47 p.m. room 1603 when Las Vegas. The view of the bed was partially obscured on purpose. This wasn't about sex. He entered first, tie loosened, laughing. Then her, Vanessa. I knew her face from pitch decks and awkward office parties. 27, brand manager, Stanford. Perfect teeth, that careful kind of ambition. She threw her purse on the chair. You didn't tell me the suite was this nice. I didn't know it'd work, he said. Shrugging off his jacket, used points. Of course you did. She walked to the minibar. He watched her walk, that laugh again, loose, pleased. Like it was just the two of them in the world, and always had been. My hand didn't shake. I adjusted the volume. Greg thinks we're at the tables, she said, twisting a cap. He also thinks I'm allergic to tequila. She laughed. He laughed harder. That laugh, low, unguarded, boyish. I hadn't heard it in months. Not around me. I like this version of you, she said, sitting on the edge of the bed. He leaned against the dresser. No board meetings, no deadlines, just Vegas. You ever think about just walking away from all of it? He tilted his head. All of what? The startup, the pressure, Liv. My breath caught. His smile faltered. She's not the pressure, no, she's the expectation. He grabbed the tequila. She doesn't say it, but I feel it every time I breathe. Vanessa didn't reply. She reached out and took the bottle from his hand. The sound of the cap popping off was sharp. She poured 2 shots. Handed him 1, 2 expectations, she said. They clinked. He didn't toast, he drank. The screen blurred for a moment as they moved closer. I paused. Rewound, watched again. Not the kiss, not the hand on his chest, the laugh. The one he used to say for me. The one he gave my mother during our first Thanksgiving together. When she asked if we planned to elope. The hallway outside my childhood bedroom was always colder. Thinner air. My mother's voice came muffled through the wall. I know what I saw. She whispered once. Don't lie to me. My father's silence had lasted hours. I'd been 12. I'd watched her become smaller after that night. She still baked, still cleaned, still smiled when guests came. But her voice changed, flat, measured. She never left him. And he never denied it. He just stopped coming home on Thursdays. The screen flickered. Vanessa was barefoot now, curled on the bed like she'd always belonged there. Daniel stood at the window, looking out. You ever think about what she'd do if she knew? She asked. He turned, mouth tight. Liv's strategic. She wouldn't scream. She'd just disappear. You afraid of that? No, he said. But I should be. They both laughed. My phone rang. I let it. Sophie would know what it meant when I didn't answer. The footage ran for another hour. Close, whispers, soft music. It wasn't the betrayal that made my stomach tighten. It was how easy he was. How light. Like love was just a coat you took off in warm weather. The next file auto played. Saturday morning. She wore his shirt. He ordered room service. No guilt. No pause. They joked about the pancakes, about Greg's hangover, about the product launch in 2 weeks. Vanessa's voice carried as she scrolled her phone. You know they're gonna freak when they find out. Who? Investors? About us? There is no us. She looked up. Ouch. He smiled. You knew the terms. She stood. Walked to him. I know what I want. He didn't stop her when she kissed him again. I closed the laptop. The bathroom was cold. I splashed water on my face, the mirror was fogged to the corners, I wiped it clean. I looked like my mother. Same eyes, same mouth, same stillness. She taught me to listen more than speak, to smile without revealing, to keep quiet until the room had exhausted itself. But she never taught me what to do with betrayal, only how to wear it. When I answered Sophie's call, I kept my voice steady. You watched it. She said. Double quotes. Yes. How bad? He loves. Hurries. Did he say that? No. But I know that laugh. It's the one he used on me before I became useful. Sophie sighed. Do you need me to come over? No. You sure? I'm watching again, I said. There was a pause. You're going to build a case, aren't you? He's already handed it to me. I'll bring croissants in the morning. Bring your laptop. The window was open an inch. The wind pushed the curtain like a slow breath. I didn't cry. Not because it didn't hurt, but because I'd seen what silence had done to my mother. And I would not become her. I pushed the last photo across the table. Elliot glanced at it, then at me. This is him. Vegas, Suite 1603. Friday night. Timestamp verified. He didn't blink. Just slid the photo back toward the center of the conference table. We were in his office, midtown, soundproofed and lined with quiet blue panels. Privacy wasn't a request here. It was policy. And you're certain you want to proceed this way? He asked. Yes? You're not filing for divorce. We're not married, right? He clicked his pen once. Engaged, cohabitating, shared real estate in both names, assets technically entangled. Technically. I echoed. He turned the page on the folder. The condo was bought jointly, yes? I fronted the down payment. It came from my trust. Good. I watched him highlight 3 lines. What's your goal, Olivia? To separate quietly and surgically. And the emotional side already processed, he looked up. You processed a 5-year relationship in 3 days. I folded my hands. I'm not mourning the man. I'm restructuring my investment. He allowed a half smile. All right. He pulled another sheet forward. These are the joint accounts. There are 4. He's been transferring small amounts weekly to what I assume is a private fund online. Bank, Nevada-based amounts, just under reporting threshold. Smart. But lazy. Can we trace it? We already did. I nodded. In the business accounts. That's the more delicate area. How exposed am I? You're listed as a non-executive advisor on his Series B filings. He added me without consent. Technically. With your verbal approval. It's recorded in an investor dinner transcript. I reviewed it. You nodded. I nodded at dessert. Still counts. I sat back. Can I be removed? Yes. But not without alerting him. I don't care. Elliot made a note. You're also on the 409A valuation letter as a strategic asset. That's absurd. It's flattering. I don't need flattering. I need clean. He tapped the file. Then we move slow and deliberate. We freeze the joint accounts, notify the board of a conflict, and extract you from all filings and stages. Quietly. Good. He looked at me again. And Daniel? What about him? Will he suspect? Not until it's already done. Later that evening, I sat across from Sophie in her office. A file opened between us. You've been busy, she said. Math helps. She flipped through the pages. These are journal entries, asset map. Emotional liabilities. She raised an eyebrow. I made 2 columns. What I gave and what I got. And I'm overdrawn. She sat back. You want to go after him? No. I want to vanish beneath him. Pull the ground out quiet. She nodded. That I can help with. I need a severance package. For a fiancé, for a business arrangement built on false premises. Sophie grinned. You want illegally sound. I want it irrefutable. I'll draft something. No threats. No emotion. Just logic. I'll make it clean. Clinical. That's all I need. She looked at me carefully. You really not angry? I'm efficient. There was a pause. Your mother called, Sophie said softly. I know. She left a message. I haven't listened. Sophie closed the file. She's worried. She taught me how to survive betrayal. She just never taught me how to respond to it. You've responded. No, I said, not yet. He walked through the door with a smile. To ready? Miss me, he said, setting his bag down and kissing my cheek like it meant nothing. You smell like airport soap, I said, smiling. And you're late. Delayed. Mechanical issue. Out of McCarran. You didn't text. I figured you'd be asleep. I wasn't. He held up a glossy white bag. Peace offering. French. Expensive. Let me guess. Something you sprayed on Vanessa first. He laughed. What? I took the bag, opened it. Perfume. New. Sealed. Joke. Oh. Well ha. I stepped aside. Dinner's ready. He walked into the kitchen like it was still his. I followed. Careful, balanced. Like performing on glass. He sat, poured wine. You really didn't have to cook. I didn't. Sophie did. I reheated. He raised his glass to good friends. Then, I met his toast to returns over pasta. He started in. Greg got food poisoning. Friday night. Spent half the trip in the bathroom. Vegas justice, exactly. I bailed early. Stayed in the room, watched movies. Wild weekend, no tables, didn't feel right, too tired. Must have been a nice hotel. It was fine, the room service looked expensive. He blinked, I didn't use it. I smiled, really? Yeah. Why? Your credit alert came through. Late night charge Saturday. He paused, oh, right? I forgot, just water and some snacks. Room 1603 snacks are gourmet. Then he stared. How'd you know the room number? You texted it to me when you landed, oh, right? I did. Silence settled. I twirled my fork. Did Vanessa enjoy the view? He looked up fast. What? The city view from the room. Why? Would she? She works at your startup? Thought maybe she dropped by. No. He laughed. No. Liv? You're fishing. Am I? He leaned back. Okay. What's going on? I'm asking about your trip. No. You're interrogating. You're deflecting. I'm explaining. I took a sip, then explain. I didn't do anything. You're acting like I committed a crime. I didn't say you did. You're implying it. I'm listening. He slammed his glass down. What is this? A test. I met his eyes. Would you pass? He stood, paced. You're different. Lately, am I? More calculated. You're not used to being watched. What the hell does that mean? I said slowly. I found your watch. He blinked. What? The one you said you left at the gym. It was in your carry-on, under your shaving kit. He hesitated. I must have packed it last minute. You forgot where. It was a crazy weekend, Liv. Jesus, I moved closer. Crazy like tequila shots. Or just bad memory. Enough. He snapped. I stepped back. Fine. He breathed hard. I brought you a gift. I accepted it. I'm trying here, no. I said quietly. You're performing. He stared at me. Do you want to fight? No. Then what do you want? I walked to the sink, poured my wine out. I want the truth. But I'll settle for your silence. He shook his head. This is insane. I turned. Is it? I'm done. He grabbed his bag. Walked toward the stairs. As he disappeared down the hall. I opened the perfume box. The seal tore with a whisper inside. A receipt tucked behind the tissue paper. Saturday. 3:21 p.m. Win Boutique. Vanessa L., sales associate. I folded it, slipped it into my pocket and went back to the table. Dinner was still warm. But I wasn't hungry anymore. Asterisk the emails were dumb. No encryption. No deletions, just lazy trails of lust and ego. You looked incredible in that dress. Let's book the suite again next quarter. She doesn't get me the way you do. Each one a breadcrumb, each one a subtraction. I catalog them in a spreadsheet. Sender, timestamp, subject line, emotion coded, not for legal use, for clarity. Vanessa's tone shifted mid-February. I told Sophie, scrolling. How so? Before. Curious. Flirty, after. Certain, possessive, she thinks she's won. She thinks he's free. Sophie leaned back. And you? I think she's an intern with ambition. She's not an intern. Spiritually, on his laptop, I found a folder labeled vendor estimates. Inside, photos of her. Dinners, beach, something taken from across a bed, feet tangled. I didn't flinch. Because underneath that folder, buried deeper, was a budget plan. Vanessa apartment. March 2025 ring. Hold until after Series C prenup draft saved, not opened. I stared at it. He had plans, but not with me. The wallpaper in my childhood kitchen had peeled in one corner. I used to stare at that strip during arguments. My mother never fixed it. Said it reminded her not everything had to look perfect. I didn't understand then. I do now. I ran another trace on Daniel's transactions. Same card, new vendor designer boutique out of state. I opened the charge, custom silk robe embroidered. Veal. I didn't need to guess the initials. Why are you still in the house? Sophie asked, voice tight. Because I want to walk out, not be pushed. You're playing with fire. I'm measuring it. You found his exit plan. What's yours? Reclamation. She frowned. Of what? Self. The last time I saw my father, he was ironing a shirt. Calm? Casual? He kissed my forehead and told me, your mother deserves better. Then he left. No suitcase, just keys. Later, I found a receipt in the trash. Hotel, one night. Paid in cash, room service for two. He said he was freeing her. But really, he freed himself from consequence. I traced Daniel's IP logins, a few from our house, more from hotels. One from a spa retreat in Sedona I'd never heard about. I clicked a folder, wellness invoices, retreat summaries, and Vanessa's name listed on the guest registry. He'd registered her as his emotional partner. My title had been legal domestic. Cohabitant on his insurance form. I didn't cry. I organized. I color-coded betrayals by category: financial, emotional, reputational. I gave each a severity score. I built pivot tables. Sophie called it madness. I called it therapy. Because the more I quantified it, the less it could undo me. I stood in the mirror that night, wearing a navy shirt he never noticed. I looked like my mother but sharper. The scar from a childhood fall peeked out above my collarbone. I touched it once, a reminder some breaks don't bleed, they crack and settle. I had settled enough. Now I was preparing to crack back quietly, precisely, and permanently. Sophie looked up from the documents, her glasses halfway down her nose. This is ruthless. It's accurate, I said. It's beautiful. She corrected, cold, precise. Like you strangled him with his own quarterly report. I slid the folder toward her. The emails are at the end. She flipped to them. Jesus, Liv? She attached her resume to a company account thread. Twice. Why would she do that? He promised her a promotion. Sophie leaned back. He's not just careless, he's stupid. He thinks loyalty is a default setting, not a choice. She skinned further. This line here, Daniel said not to loop HR until after he secures board buy-in. That's the compliance hit. I underlined it for you, she grinned. Thanks for doing my job. I've always done his. We sat in silence as she printed 2 copies. The sound of the machine was steady, satisfying. Where are you sending it from? She asked. Third-party courier. No return. Anonymous dropped to the board legal counsel. Friday, 9 a.m. Poetic, predictable, same thing in litigation. I opened my laptop, pulled out the wire instructions. Half of our joint account is now in escrow. My name only, signed under Clause 6C of our financial agreement. He doesn't know yet? He'll find out Monday, she smirked, and the equity, his 3% stake is still his. But the advisor clause tying me to the 409A valuation? Gone, retroactively. You ghosted his capitalization table, legally. Sophie clutched her heart. God, I love you. Later we sat on my balcony. Cold air, late wine. I always thought you'd burn it down with a monologue, Sophie? Said no. You sure you don't want to yell at him first, just once? I want him to read the board memo alone. At his desk with a full inbox and no idea what's coming, she nodded slowly. And when he calls? I won't answer. Text, I'll read it. But I won't reply. She tilted her head. That's your revenge, that's my boundary. The wind picked up. Sophie pulled her coat tighter. He's going to lose more than money, she said. He already has. She looked over at me. And you? I gained something. What? Distance, perspective, she smiled. That's therapist speak, it's self-speak. She raised her glass. To poetic compliance violations, I raised mine. To controlled fires, we clanked. And the wind carried the sound clean into the dark. He was already at the table, tan perfect, espresso in hand. The terrace buzzed with soft laughter and polished shoes. No one here raised their voice unless they were losing. Liv, he stood, smiling like we hadn't shattered. You look incredible. I sighed. You're late. He checked his watch for minutes. Which is exactly how long it takes your board to read a packet. His brow twitched. This lunch isn't about work, no. It's about choices. He glanced at the man across the patio. Caleb, I think, from legal and shifted in his seat. You ordered yet? No. I said. You won't be hungry? He laughed. God, I missed you. I slid the envelope across the table. Ivory, unsealed. What's this? Options, Liv, open it. He did. To pages. Simple language. No drama. He skimmed, blinked, read again slower. A revised prenup, correct, he snorted. We're not married, we're still engaged, legally, emotionally, reputationally. You're bluffing. I folded my hands. Am I? He leaned in. You think showing me a contract will scare me? No. I think showing this to your investors will. He froze. I continued. Clause 3 outlines breach of fiduciary conduct. Clause 5 identifies third-party conflicts of interest within the startup. Clause 6 releases me fully from advisory responsibility, while protecting my equity options from dilution. You don't have cause, you signed a clause. That's semantics, that's leverage. He sat back. You want money? No. I want silence, mine, in writing. He had the last page. If I sign this, you avoid an audit of both your accounts and your company. You have nothing. You gave me everything. Vanessa did the rest. His jaw twitched. You've been planning this since February. You spied on me. I documented you. There's a difference. This is insane. He hissed. You're not this person. I wasn't, I said. Then you taught me how to be. He shook his head, laughing once. Bitter. You're bluffing. Check your email. He pulled out his phone, tapped, read. I watched his face shift. You send this to Caleb? No. But I copied him in case he refused. He looked at me, finally seeing it. You'd really burn me down. No, I said. I'd watch. You burn yourself. I'd just bring the matches. He stood abruptly. We can talk about this at home. We won't be going home. I still have rights, of course. I cut in. But you're out of time. He glanced toward the terrace exit. I nodded at the pen beside his plate. Sign it here. In front of your future? He stared down at the papers. You don't want to do this, he said quietly. I already did, I said. You're just catching up. He hesitated, then scribbled his name fast, resentful. I slid the envelope back into my bag. You're making A. The mail came from Vanessa's company address. But the signature block was gone. Subject, please, one word, no greeting. No punctuation. I didn't open it. Sophie called before I could finish my coffee. She's out. When? Last night. Security walked her out of the office with a banker's box, cliché and everything. Statement, internal memo. Due to recent compliance concerns, Vanessa Lane is no longer employed at this time. Clean, vague, brutal. Daniel hiding behind PR. But word spreading. You know how this town works. I do. She paused. You okay? Efficient. That's not an emotion. It's more reliable. By noon, 2 of their investors have made statements about reevaluating trust structures within the leadership team. One pulled out quietly, but not invisibly. Daniel's name disappeared from the panel schedule at the next FinTech summit. The ripples were neat, controlled, but no one mistook the silence for peace. He moved out the following Friday. I wasn't there. He left the keys on the kitchen counter, next to the empty ring box I'd never used. The house felt lighter when I returned, less occupied, less tense, still. I opened every drawer, just to be sure. He texted the next morning. Daniel, did it have to be like this? I didn't reply. 4 hours later, Daniel, we could have handled it between us. I muted the thread. The only voicemail came Sunday night. Liv, I know you're angry. You've made that clear. But Vanessa wasn't. She didn't mean anything. You know I compartmentalize. That's what made us work, right? You were always logic. I was the chaos. You can't erase that with contracts. Click. He didn't call again. Vanessa and mailed from a personal account days later. Subject, Justy, why? Body, you didn't have to ruin everything. I didn't deserve that. We all make mistakes. He said you'd understand. You always seem so composed. I closed the laptop. Composure wasn't what ruined her. Proof to at the club. To women at the bar stopped talking when I walked in. One smiled too wide. The other didn't look away. Liv. One of them called. I heard things got messy. I sat beside her. Not messy, just honest. Her mouth twitched. Well, you're glowing. I sleep better now. She lifted her martini. To sleeping alone. I raised my water. To knowing who's next to you. They didn't speak to me again. By Thursday, Daniel's name was off the apartment lease. I changed the locks anyway. Not because I feared his return, because I didn't. The last package he sent arrived in a plain black box. No return address. Inside, the watch I'd moved in Vegas, a note folded behind it. I suppose you earned this. No signature. I dropped the watch in the donation bin by the train station. It was still ticking. But that didn't mean it mattered. The first letter started with his name, just that. Daniel, no greeting, no sentiment. I didn't want to apologize. I didn't want to accuse. I wanted him to feel the weight of what I didn't say. You didn't break me. You revealed me. That was the first line. Then I wrote about the silk robe. The receipts. The shallow way he said sorry when caught, like the truth was inconvenient, not consequential. I wrote about silence, his favorite weapon, and how I learned to use it better. I wrote about the apartment. The wine glasses he never washed. The way he turned every question into a courtroom defense. I wrote that I forgave him not because he deserved it, but because I didn't want to carry him anymore. I folded the letter and slipped it into the back of my journal. Unstamped, unsent. The second letter took longer. Dad, I'm older now than you were when you left. That line sat alone for hours. Then, I wrote about watching Mom shrink after he left. How I used to think she was weak for staying. For folding towels like everything was fine. I wrote that I understand now. That staying wasn't weakness, it was grief dressed as ritual. I wrote that I don't hate him. Not anymore. I wrote that I used to think I wasn't like him until I walked away too. Not because I didn't care, but because I finally did. About myself, I folded the letter and sealed it, just once, no address. Sophie noticed it on the counter that night. That for him, she asked. No. She touched the envelope, planning to send it. Never. She looked at me. Then why write it? To empty the drawer? She poured us wine. Was it heavy? Yes, she nodded. And now, letter. I put both letters in a wooden box. Same one I kept my mother's bracelet in. The one she stopped wearing the year he left. I didn't need to send the words. Saying them was enough. Releasing them was more. The new apartment has no doorman, no valet, no skyline view. But the windows drink sunlight like it's a second skin, and the walls don't echo when I breathe. Cozy, Sophie said, walking in with a bottle of wine. And a loaf of bread like we were in Paris. Honest, I corrected. She placed the bread on the counter. You sure you're not secretly spiraling? I'm baking rosemary bread on Sunday. That's not a no. I smiled. I sleep through the night now. She nodded, glancing around. It smells like basil. I planted some in the windowsill. Mint, too. You always said you didn't have a green thumb. I didn't. Now I do. She tilted her head. That a metaphor? It's lunch. We ate on the floor. Plates balanced on books I hadn't shelved yet. You going to work from here permanently? She asked for a while. You don't miss the old place? Only when I want to feel haunted. She chewed slowly. Do you ever think about him? Only when I open drawers. She raised an eyebrow. The camera's in one, I said. Back of the desk, still functional, completely. She swallowed. Why keep it, too? Remind me what I already know. She didn't ask what that was. She didn't need to. The mornings are quieter now. I wake up before my alarm, make tea, write lists without tension. The door doesn't creak, the shower doesn't drip, the closet holds only my clothes. Freedom isn't loud, it's subtle, like light on hardwood. Like peace without ceremony. Sophie called the next evening. You still working? Just finished. Wanna walk? We met at the corner and wandered without direction. I ran into Greg, she said. Alive, barely. Asked about you. What did you say? That you're glowing. That you're growing herbs. She glanced at me. He said Daniel still hasn't recovered. That's not my problem. No, she said. It's not. Back home. I opened the drawer. The camera was cold in my hand. I didn't power it on. Didn't need to. It had served its purpose. It didn't destroy anything. It clarified everything. The woman in the mirror still looks like me. Same eyes. Same mouth. But the tension that once lived between my shoulders is gone. I wear my stillness now like a tailored coat. Sophie noticed it first. You don't flinch anymore. I didn't know I was flinching. You were, constantly, in small, polite ways. We were on my balcony. Her legs curled under her, glass of wine in hand. What changed? She asked. I stopped answering questions that weren't worth asking. She raised her glass to strategic silence, to unearned noise, I said, and learning not to respond to it. Daniel emailed last week. The subject line said closure. The body said, I hope you're well. I know I made mistakes. I just thought maybe one day, when it stops hurting, we could talk. I didn't delete it. I archived it. Peace isn't pretending it never happened. It's choosing not to carry it anymore. I started running in the mornings, not for speed, for breath. At the lake trail, I pass the same man every Tuesday. Gray beard, blue hoodie. We nod. We don't speak. There's power in that. Presence without history. At work, I say less in meetings. I wait longer before I speak. People listen harder. Your voice hits different now. One of the analysts told me last week. I thanked him. I didn't explain why. The rosemary's still alive. So are the mint and thyme. And the orchid Sophie gave me as a joke. Low maintenance, high reward. It bloomed last Thursday. I stared at it for 10 minutes before realizing I was smiling. I saw Vanessa at the co-op. She froze by the yogurt aisle, holding oat milk and shame. She said, Liv, I said, Vanessa. A pause, the fridge humming behind us. You look good. She offered. I am. She shifted. I didn't expect. You weren't supposed to. Her eyes dropped. I lost more than my job. That wasn't my doing, I said. She nodded. I know. I walked away before she could ask for anything else. That, too, was peace. Sophie asked me once if I'd ever fall in love again. I don't know, I said. That's fair. But if I do, I added, it won't be because I need saving. Or because you need to save them. No. I said, that strategy failed. The camera is still in the drawer, wrapped in velvet, untouched. It didn't expose him. It reminded me to watch more carefully, including myself. Clarity is the most underrated power. It doesn't shout. It sees, and what I see now is my life unfolding, uncomplicated, unapologetic, and fully mine.